Team, this is Built Resilient. Hey, welcome back for another week. My name is Bartholomew Walsh, but to keep things as simple as possible, you can call me Bart. And I'm a keynote speaker. I'm also a fitness expert, and today is a question and answer episode. My mission with this show is to level up your emotional, mental, and physical resilience to make you a better person. And today we're answering questions directly from people just like you. We're answering questions about building trust with your team if you're a manager. We're talking about overtraining. Am I exercising too much to try and make myself better? We're talking about trying to find my old self again. I'm moving in a different direction from my friends. How do I find my old self? And we're answering questions about self-accountability. Where do I start? If you have a question similar to these or even different, you can write in hello@bartwalsh.com.au. Send me a question, be as detailed as you can, and I'll get that question answered on the show. And the normal podcasty stuff, subscribe to the show, 5-star rating. Thank you very much, team. Let's pass over to the AI agent that's going to read our first question today.
I have just been promoted to managing a small corporate team who seem to have given up with their job. They do the bare minimum, but they rarely go above and beyond. How can I build trust and re-engage them?
Firstly, a round of applause for the promotion, shall we? Great job. This is a question I get a lot because I present to a lot of corporate teams, and the people that I liaise with to get me into their office are often these sorts of people, managers who need to motivate their team or build a bit of trust with their team with an outside person to deliver a message. So it's a very common question, but even if you're not a manager, the same framework applies if you're trying to build trust with your partner, with your family, with your friends, or hey, even with yourself to an extent as well. In this instance, I want you to understand if you're trying to build trust and re-engage with your team, that influence needs to come through that bond of trust. Trust is the key word here. And trust, ladies and gentlemen, is built through action. It's built through your behaviors, because always remember that behavior is a language too, a language that we take in, a language that our nervous system interprets, but often a language that we don't often think about. So understand that. We need to do this through action. And a common theme also applies in personal training, and I know everything goes back to fitness for me, but just trust me here. When you're getting a new client, you're meeting that person for the new time, they're coming into the gym, they might be a little bit apprehensive of the environment and of you as the personal trainer. The first thing we need to do is to build trust and engage them, just like you're trying to do with your team in your office. And the first thing we need to do that is to meet them where they are at. In the office environment, it's good to understand that your team at this moment, work isn't their life. Work is a necessity. They need to be there. If money wasn't an issue, they'd probably be doing something else. And it sounds a bit anti-culture, but it's very true. But it's not to say that you can't change that. So understand that to meet them where they're at. In the personal training analogy, if I start using words like periodization and progressive overload and hip extension, stuff that they don't understand, I'm widening the gap that's already between us. So it's the same with managers in the workplace. If you start using language or standing on a soapbox and just barking at them, like a lot of managers do, which is unfortunate, that divide between your team and you is only going to extend. You need to step down from that soapbox and sit with them where they're at. Like with kids, you need to get on their level literally for you to communicate effectively. And so once we understand meeting them where they're at, we need to understand them as a human. In the personal training sense, this is where I ask every single question under the sun to get to know who they are as a human, not as a potential client, not as anything else, but as a human. And it's the same in the workplace. Understand that at the end of the day, we're all humans, we're all part of the human race. And if we can develop a genuine care for that person by understanding every single aspect of their life, the trust starts to build over time by simply doing that. And this is the thing a lot of managers don't put time into because they think it might be unproductive or not working towards that bottom line. But it does. Culture is king. So take the time to learn your team, understand them, spend time with them. When you have a one-on-one meeting with them, yep, go through performance, go through KPIs, absolutely. But also go through what's happening in their life. Ask about their kids, ask about their weird fascination with the world of Zelda, if that's what they're into. Understand them on a human level. And this is the same with keynote speaking as well. There's often times I'll walk into a room where I go, all right, that's a board member, that's the CEO, that's the general manager. These people, in terms of career and business, are way above me. But I meet them where they're at. I don't speak to their title. I don't speak to them being the CFO. I speak to them being a human. And that's how we can connect with people. And then the next step is also an important one. It's getting in the trenches with them. Remember, we build trust. We build a foundation of trust by getting on their level, meeting them where they're at. We then get to know them. We know them as a human. And then we lead by example and let our actions speak louder than our words. Hey, take some tasks off their plate. Show them how you do it, or show the expectation you want them to have indirectly. If they've got a really big task, hey, get in there and help them, lead them. And all of a sudden, your actions are speaking languages that your words never could. Leadership is action, and you need to get in the trenches with them to build that trust. And then over time, once you've done those first few steps, that's when you can start to give them more responsibility. No human wants to be micromanaged. I would suffice to say that no human wants to be managed. Full stop, end of story. So the best thing you can do is make them feel like the work that they're doing is theirs. So give them responsibility, give them a bit of creative control over a project, and all of a sudden they're developing their leadership skills, which are led by you. So I want to summarize this because this is a very powerful framework. The first thing we do is meet them where they're at. We speak to them on their level. The second thing we do is learn every single thing we can about them. Learn them as a human, not as their job title. We then let our actions speak louder than our words by getting in the trenches with them, working alongside them, even if it means more work for you. Congratulations, you're a manager. That happens sometimes. And then the last thing is to give them a bit of responsibility. Make the work they do feel like it's theirs. They're actually contributing and not just checking boxes. And if you do these 4 things consistently, all of a sudden, that trust machine just snowballs, baby. Productivity is through the roof. Your team is happier. You are happier. They're taking more responsibility of the stuff that goes wrong. And that environment then changes wholesale. It's the same as a personal training client. Building trust is universal. It can change from context to context. Let's do question number 2.
I used to be as fit as anything, I had heaps of friends and thought I was on track to doing some great things in this life. But ever since I have had a kid, I've lost all motivation to work out, and I feel my friends and I are moving in different directions. How can I find the old me again?
If you've got a pen and a paper, I want you to write this down. Trying to hold on to what was stops you from building what could be. To the person writing in this question, thank you, but I want to say something that's a bit harsh. So hold on to your hats. The old you is dead. Trying to get back to where you were, it will never happen. And I don't think I'm out of line in saying I don't want you to get back to where you were, because you are a completely and utterly different person. You have a human, you have a part of you that is now in this world. And it's now your responsibility to show them how to do this human thing. And there's no way that you can do that and be the person that you were. You don't want that. You're wiser. You're different. And so now is an opportunity for us to clean the slate. And this is the same with your friendships as well. I want you to clean the slate and start today saying, this is a new me. This is a new journey. I'm not going to go back to where I was because I want to go to places that are better than that. I knew going into having a child, my life would change. Everyone tells you about it. They say, oh, you don't know what you're in for. Your life's about to change considerably. And you understand that on one level, but you don't feel it. You don't truly understand it. And hey, when Lysander came along and came into our lives for months and months and months, maybe even years, I was trying to live the life that I lived previously. I was trying to train the same programs. I was trying to do the same output in work. I was trying to keep things the same. And I drove myself crazy because no matter what I did, no matter what success I had, I felt like a failure because it was different to what it was in the past. And so I did what I'm going to encourage this person to do now. I cleaned the slate. I said, hey, my life going forward is going to be different. It needs to be, but it's going to be better than it was in the past. And as soon as I did that, I all of a sudden found that my training schedule changed for the better. I found the way I thought about work and separated work and home, it changed for the better. The relationship with my wife, that warrior that brought our son into this world, it changed. I all of a sudden became more grateful because I understood I was cultivating something different. And this is the same process that happens through big life changes. When you have a divorce, not that I've had one, I've had a few clients that have had some in the past. When you have one, you have to do the same process. Your life is done. The life you thought you had is done. We need to grieve it, absolutely. We need to be sad, but then we need to start building something else. And we need to start building it one good choice at a time. So for this person here, yep, your life is different. I don't want you to try and go back to the person that you were. I want you to cultivate a better future for you and think about the person that you could be. And does that mean you're going to be distancing yourself from your friends, maybe geographically and emotionally? Possibly. If they're not on your level, if they're still partying on Saturday nights and you're getting to bed at 7 p.m., it's not to say you can't be friends, but there's a disconnect. There's going to be a different relationship there, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. We just need to understand that it will change. And then all of a sudden you start looking to yourself in the future and you start cultivating relationships that feed that future. And yes, the friends you've had in the past, they're still your friends, but you've also got these new relationships and this new life that's fueling you, that's feeding you for a better position in life. And you won't find it until you start looking for it. You will not find the magic unless you start believing in it. So I'm sorry that advice might be a little bit harsh, but it might be something that you need to hear. And if you have a follow-up question, hey, please write in. I'd love to hear from you again. Let us move on to question number 3.
My husband says I might be exercising too much, but I don't really know. How do I know if I am overtraining?
All right, let's talk a bit about fitness and a little bit about stress and recovery. For those who don't know what overtraining is, it means that you're putting too much stress on your body in the gym, that you're not seeing any results. And there's a heap of signs to know if you're overtraining, and we'll go through them in a second. But I want you to first understand this. Your body is always being stressed and recovering, stress and recovering, stress and recovering. It's why we need sleep. We need to sleep at the end of the day for our body to recover, reset, and go again the next day. It's why sleep is so important. And when we start adding in stress from the gym into this bucket, pouring it in, pouring the stress, pouring the stress, pouring the stress, and we're not allowing the water to run out the recovery holes at the bottom of that bucket will overflow. And that's when we enter a state of overtraining, or you may know it as a state of burnout. It's a similar physiological and emotional state. So we're talking about the balance between stress and recovery. For this person here to know if you're overtraining, we need to understand how much stress we're having and how much recovery we're having. What does that look like? Great question. And I want to do a quick story here. I've been overtrained a number of times in my life, but there was one time that stands out like a sore thumb. This is a story about the time I had rhabdomyolysis. Rhabdomyolysis is where you exercise so much that your muscle proteins start breaking down, entering your blood, and start shutting you down. It is a bad place. And the way we find out we have it sometimes is because when we pee, we can actually see brown and blood in that urine. We've exercised so much that our body is literally breaking down. How I got it is a pretty funny one. I've been working in my gyms my whole life. But I was working in this gym. I did spin classes. That day I had to take an extra one. Someone didn't come in. So I ended up doing 2 spin classes that day. I had a CrossFit session and I lifted some weights on top of it. And the last session of the day was the cycle session. I did it. I crushed it. Everyone had a great time. But I went to the bathroom afterwards and realized, yep, I am peeing blood. I am in a bad spot. I have exercised far too much. And so I decided to take off about 6 weeks. I did a little bit of work, a little bit of movement and mobility work, but I took off training for a long time because I knew my body was shutting down. Now, the person that wrote in this question, I hope you're not at that point, and I hope your urine isn't brown. I didn't expect to say the word urine so much in today's episode, but congratulations. But here are some other states or some other signs that you might be overtraining. The first is you can't get to sleep. You go to sleep at the same time, and for whatever reason, your mind is racing, your body is racing, and you cannot shut those eyes. Or perhaps you even go to sleep, but then you wake up tired, and you're always tired throughout your day except when you train. That could be a sign that we're overtraining. You could feel detached from your work, like you don't have a purpose anymore. You could see your results in the gym actually going in the wrong direction. So ask yourself, hey, when was the last time you actually got stronger? When did the weights go up a little bit? You might have feelings of, where small decisions might feel really overwhelming, and you find yourself snapping at people. And there's a whole heap of other things. You're always hungry, or you're never hungry, for example. You're always sore after exercise. And these could be a whole lot of things, but if you're ticking a lot of these boxes saying, yeah, I've got that, yeah, I've got that, yeah, I've got that, yeah, you might be overtraining. But the best way you can sort of check is just stop. And if you're a serial exerciser, the thought of not exercising for maybe 2 weeks scares the pants off you. That tells me we probably need to do that sort of stuff more. You're not going to lose much results. You might lose a bit of your conditioning work if you do a bit of cardio work, but your strength, it won't change. Your muscle mass, it won't change, but it will give your body time to recover. So if you take this advice and say, yep, I'm going to listen to this Nuffy on the podcast, I'm going to take 2 weeks off exercise, I'm going to do a bit of stretching and a bit of walking, that's it. And then you come back and you train and you're all of a sudden stronger, then we're probably doing too much. And so for a rule of thumb for the non-exercisers out there is that I don't think most people should be training more than 4 times a week if you're training properly. If you're training for an event or a specific sport, there's always exceptions to the rule. But for generally, I think 4 is your max. You can see great results with just 1 strength training session a week. But I think the sweet spot for most people is lifting weights 2 to 3 times a week and getting a bit of huffy puffy in there sometime during the week, but as a secondary priority. So I suppose I didn't really answer your question, but I don't think you can. I don't have much details here. How do I know if I'm overtraining? Have a look at the symptoms that I listed off. If some of them apply, great. If you're still a bit confused, just take a week off, then train, see if you get stronger, and then start a new program and start those gains coming on again. All right, enough about nerdy fitness stuff. Let's move on to the last question.
You mentioned in one of your episodes that it's hard to build self-accountability without learning to love yourself first. How exactly do you do this? I feel like I need to work on giving myself more credit, but don't know where to start.
So what we're talking about is the outcome of building accountability, but understanding that we need to love ourselves and learning to love ourselves as a step towards that accountability. And this is a long process, and dare I say a lifelong process, because there'll be periods of your life where you just are disgusted with who you are, but also times in your life where you are utterly proud of what you've become. It's always in flux. It's not a set and forget. Self-love and accountability is not a set and forget. It's a beautiful condition of being human. But I think here's a great place to start. Start with giving yourself credit, particularly when it comes to accountability. And give yourself credit like you would give your best mate credit. So if your mate came to you and said, hey, I made my bed this morning, I had a glass of water in the morning, which I haven't been doing. I've been doing that for 2 weeks. Hell, I had a workout today. I did some great things at work. You would go, hey, best mate, great job. But when you do that to yourself, often we overlook it. So the first thing I want you to understand is keep your mind open for points in your day where you can give yourself a pat on the back, and then I want you to record it. I want you to write it down or type it down, find a way to sort of journal it. And if you hear the word journal and you want to run in the other direction because you've heard it 10 times over and you never tried it before, I want you to do it. Because we need to give ourselves evidence of this credit. It's the same in the gym. Oh, I have an issue. Every analogy comes back to the gym, but it's true. If you don't know how strong you've become until you understood where you start. So if we don't track our workouts, we don't know how far we've progressed. We don't know how fit we've become because we don't have evidence of it. It's the same with building self-accountability and building self-love. If we don't know or can't recall what we've done good, we will think we've always done bad. So I want you to journal these wins. And if you're into sort of self and physical advancement, you can track your sleep, you can track your habits, you can track your nutrition, you can track your workouts. And this is, of course, evidence that you're doing something right, which is why I love tracking my sleep, but that's an entirely different podcast episode. Because when you start with action and you give yourself credit for these actions and you record these actions somehow, you track them, your thoughts will follow suit. And trust me when I say you do this long enough and you'll find yourself becoming more accountable when no one's watching. You'll find yourself loving the person that you are because you're leading by example and letting your actions speak louder than your words. What your actions put out into this world will make you fall in love with yourself and build that self-accountability. And there's another thing you can try in terms of self-love that I have stolen from the great John Deloney. And what he does is he often gets people, in fact, we can do this right now. If you're near a mirror, go to a mirror. If you're not, just do it with me. Make a fist with your hand and put it in the middle of your chest, right in the middle. Make good contact. I want you to look in the mirror and say, hey, I love this guy. I love this dude. I truly do. You do that every morning and every night, and I'm sure you'll find your thoughts start to change because of it. You follow this up with the actions and giving yourself credit, and hey, that self-accountability that you're looking for, that will come. But don't be distracted. There's always going to be distractions that will want to put you on one path or the other. Take the time, be consistent, and you'll build that accountability over time. Team, end of another episode. Thank you for coming on the journey with me today. I hope you've taken something from today's episode. If you do want to contribute, you know where to go. hello@bartwalsh.com.au. Send me an email. Hey, send me your wins. Send me your good stories. Send me the questions that you have, and we'll answer these questions on this show in due course. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm at walsh.fit. And I post up clips of this show on there. So if you see them, hey, give it a like, give it a share, give it a comment. And thank you for being here with me in Built Resilient. I'll see you in the next episode. Remember to choose resilience. Bye.